From the block to the boardroom, listening close. They're spilling all the secrets, the highs and the lows. HR blunders, they'll laugh, they'll inspire. Two sisters on fire, lifting the empire.
All right. Welcome back to HR Blunders. Of course, we had to get our action figure on, and we had to turn it up a notch, as Drake would say, and we had to animate ours.
Yeah,
So that is cool. I really like this whole animated action
yeah,
figure. I think it is so cool. I
it is.
love the AI technology.
Yeah.
But welcome to tonight's podcast. We have
Yes,
the
yes.
topic is how important is the art of small talk. And I think that is going to be helpful and useful for people, especially during this time period and in this season, and just understanding how to navigate, the whole work environment. Even if you aren't at work, a lot of the things we talk about are transferable, whether you're working for someone like in a corporation or if you are a business owner, because you still, again, you should be networking, you should be out at events, you should be mixing and mingling. I was just at one yesterday, and and a combination of entrepreneurs and also, corporate folks. So this is like right on topic, around making that small talk.
Absolutely. It's a challenging subject. And, as you know, I've been a practicing engineer for 25 years, and this is a very interesting subject for engineers, right? Because small talk, for the most part, is not usually our specialty, right? So, um, one thing that's tough for engineers is we love discussing complicated ideas, and so they're not really that interested a lot of times in small talk, right? It's tough. We like to talk about ideas and things like that, but it's important because um, small talk helps you to build, camaraderie, and get on one accord with people. This subject kind of came up for me because I was in a group, one of my groups, and a lady was stating that she had gotten a bad review, and by her manager, and she was getting passed over for an opportunity because the manager told her that she just didn't know how to connect with her. And what everybody in the group was letting her know was she was meeting her goals. It wasn't that she wasn't getting the work done, but I think that her team and people just didn't really like the approach because she was a lot more matter of fact
Hmm.
and just about the work. And so the manager said that she didn't feel like she really knew her and could get on one accord with her. And so I think sometimes we struggle with this because um we want to be very guarded about what we discuss at work. But
Hmm.
I think what you have to start with is mastering the art of telling them something without telling them anything at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a great example, my friend used to tease me about this all the time. When my son was little, they'd ask, "Hey, how's your son doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, walking, talking, learning, and growing." And they say, "Yeah," and they go on about their business. He was like, "You hadn't told them nothing, nothing at all." But
Hmm.
but they felt I had, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's understanding the art of that and being able to get on one accord with people.
Yeah. And I think that's again in the reality, and this is going to be different for different demographics and individuals. Like I always talk. I feel like I always talk from the black perspective. No shade, but I just again, just my lived experience. There is a bit of more scrutiny, and I see it more like I'm in some Facebook groups that believe it or not, are for HR people, right? And one is for people the same demographic as me. And that has come up. Like I saw that discussion come up
Mm,
around getting some of that same feedback
okay.
around like you're too quiet,
Yeah.
because then that usually makes like that can make coworkers of a different demographic nervous, which is very
Right.
weird. It's a very odd cultural dynamic where, again, and I could go deep into this, but I won't for tonight. But it's almost like this, like they have a right to know, like your
Yeah.
business, what it is that you're doing. So you do begin to master, because people get curious, right? They get curious about what they don't know about, because what you don't know about, it becomes harder to control, because now I don't know what your pain points are. I don't know what pushes you, like I don't know how to get under your skin, you know. And so I know for me, like every weekend, like, and I would dread it sometimes Mondays, because I always knew I was going to be asked by certain people who I knew meant me no well, who were intimidated by me and felt they were in competition, even though there was no competition. Um, But the question always comes up, oh, well, what did you do for the weekend, Clonetta? And I could have just flown out the country and come back. And you know
Hmm.
what my answer would be? I just took it easy around the house. I just did some housework and just, because I had to
Hmm.
learn that the hard way, right? And others have discussed that, they were open and sharing, and they actually have had coworkers say to them, like, again, the audacity of it, but actually say to them, like, you're going on another trip again, you know? And so you do have to kind of know your audience. You have to know
Yeah.
who you're talking with. You have to know if you're talking to the office gossip, right? Because sometimes the people that, may harbor some feelings towards you and not want to see you succeed because they see you're on that upward track, they might not engage with you, but they know who to go to get their intel, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that, or if you want to be, petty, then you can intentionally feed that person things to get, that's
Yeah.
it. But
You're right about the pitfalls.
yeah,
That's definitely a pitfall of small talk. And just, let's start from the beginning. What is small talk? And
mhm,
small talk is basically, polite, casual conversation,
yeah,
right, about non-controversial or unimportant topics.
yeah,
But so that's kind of the definition of small talk.
hmm,
Um, and when we think about the pitfalls of small talk, you do have to know your audience. You have to know the socioeconomics of the people that you're speaking with to understand what things are triggering or could be
yeah,
triggering or not. And I've learned outside of certain socioeconomic situations, travel is not the right thing for small talk. It can be very triggersome, travel.
yeah. I
So,
just look, call me the trigger queen, cause honey, look. But that's, again, I'm not in corporate, but
so
you're
you
right.
do have to be
Like, and
careful with that.
sometimes you doing anything, travel. Oh my God, if you buy a new house, or maybe you get a new purse or a new accessory, or and there's just some folks that everything's going to be triggering to them, right?
Yeah, I try to stay away from uh material possessions or travel for small talk. That's just me. I try to
Yeah,
stay away from that. I really try to think about those things that we all can agree upon. Like you said, non-controversial. I really try to think about spending time with family or gathering with friends. If they have children, did they, some
yeah,
neat event their children have. They don't have kids, maybe they got together with their friends and did something fun. I try to really keep it at things like that and not about material possessions or travel. Because
But
I
let me ask you this, but what if you're not talking about it? And what if they're asking you about it or they've seen you with something? Or last a couple of weeks ago, I was at a business event. And again, like I'm at a point, like that's for you. That's your, if you're triggered, that's your problem, right?
right.
Because again, but I do have that freedom, right?
Yeah.
Because I stepped outside of the corporate space and I refuse to shrink myself. Like
Hmm.
I want God to use me as a billboard for to show his glory. And so like I have this cologne, this perfume I wear. I don't know if I want to say because we're not getting no sponsorship over here. But I
Right.
have this cologne, and it is. I have had people stop me across rooms. Like I've literally here. I walked in a restaurant to pick up an order for us one night, and the waitress like across the restaurant, she was like, "Oh my god, like your perfume smells so good." I got stopped Saturday. I went to the CVS. And the little girl, she was like, "Oh my God." And she was ringing me up. She was like, "Is that Chanel that you have on?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Your perfume, it smells so good." Like I get stopped all the time. So at this event, of course I had my spray. And so this one lady, and I can tell she's trying to figure me out, right? Because she doesn't quite know who I am or, where I am in business. And she was like, "Oh my God, your perfume is so nice. What is it?" So it's like, do I lie? No, so I told her what it was. And she's like, "Can you send me it?" And I pulled it up because it
Uh-oh.
has a little price tag on it now. you know, like it got weird then, but you wanted to know that's what it is,
Yeah, I think that's a bit different. Yeah, if they specifically ask.
Yeah,
I think that's a bit different.
like
For me, I work in
in
male
corporate, I
dominated
probably would have
spaces.
like felt bad because I knew it would have come with some stuff. Like when we got back into the office, like the coming weeks, it would have probably created some stuff.
Mm,
Like so I say that to say there's some things you can't avoid, but control what you can, right?
right.
Like control what you can control.
Yeah. And
As you're
and I'm just
saying.
kind of thinking, just on just simple subjects that people can kind of navigate the landmines on, because when you get into some of these other topics, you're going to have a very high level of emotional intelligence to kind of field some of the responses you may get from some of these other things.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of,
And here's the thing too. I think folks also need to learn the art of disagreeing without being disagreeable,
yeah,
because that in and of itself is a whole thing. Because it's okay, especially like, again, you don't want to engage in political talk because you don't know like where people may be.
right.
Um, and there's so much going on nowadays. But someone may have an opinion or say something that, again, they really feel strongly about, and it may not align with me. I'm not gonna argue them up and down because it's their right to feel that way, and
Right.
that's there. They have something that has tied them so passionately to that thought process. Okay, like that's fine for them to feel that way, but I also don't feel endured to then share what my thoughts are. I
Hmm.
typically I just keep that close to the vest
Right.
because it's not going to benefit them. Like it's again, what's the purpose of it? It's not going to benefit them either which way. And also, again, again, there's so many different demographic characteristics and things, tax brackets that may, like shape why you have thoughts that you
Well,
have
it is. I mean, your
or
political views,
different,
right,
yeah,
or
like
your
so.
life experience. It's your life
Yeah,
experience.
and so I respect that the way you might view the world may be different than the lens that I view it through,
Right.
right? And so because there's some different stuff that I have to navigate through, so
Right.
I have or that I've been privy to, like that I've been behind the closed doors to see. So again, a vantage point, shapes a lot of those thoughts and things. So now I totally agree with like just being mindful of what you discuss and what you talk about. Like the kids thing, but maybe not oversharing too much about the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's understanding what drives a person, and I
Mm,
don't think it's always that they want to know about you, um, necessarily to know, your pain points, but they're wanting to understand what drives you.
mm,
What gets you up every morning? What drives you to be a successful person? And they have a better understanding of that if they understand that you are a family man or a family woman, and what drives you is giving your all to your children or your parents or your
yeah,
nieces, your nephews, even if you don't have children, your nieces, your nephews, whatever. And that's something that most people can get around, right? They can understand that, and they can get around that. And like I always tell my son, it's a political campaign, and you're running it every day. That you go into the office, you're saying, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, right?
hmm,
And what do those political pundits have to do when they're running their campaign? They have to show them that they're a family man, they're about this, they have religion, they have faith.
yeah,
They have to, sell themselves, and you're doing that to an extent with your small talk. So your
yeah,
small talk should align with what you want them to think about you and who you want them to feel that you are. That's what the small talk should align with. So, uh, if I like to go have drinks in the club and turn up every now and then, that's not in alignment with what I want them to know about me in the workplace. So I shouldn't be discussing the club and how much fun I had turning up, right? I mean, I should be discussing, you know, my family activities that I did over the weekend, how I got a chance to hang out with some close childhood friends I've had, and how important those
hmm,
relations, because people want to know. They want to know that you have relationships in your life that you value. All that, I mean, all of that gives you common ground with people, even if they don't,
yeah. It
sometimes they
lets
don't
you
like
know
you as
you're
a,
human. It
yeah,
lets you know you're human and not a robot.
yeah,
Sometimes with leaders, that's where, because I've had to coach too, like, leaders, because sometimes they can become robotic. Because that's the thing people don't talk about, when they say it's lonely at the top. It's not that it's necessarily lonely, but again, there's not a lot of people that you really can't be that open with anyone, to be honest. Like I am instructing people now, like that are C-suite and in leadership roles. Again, it's well worth your while to you can pick your choice whether you want to get a psychiatrist, a psychologist, someone that you can talk to, or a business coach or a career coach, like if you're working for someone. But I think that it would be invaluable, even if you have to pay for it yourself, to have a third party outside of your world that you're able to go talk to and vent to, because you need to have those venting sessions. You need to talk with someone. And most of the time, folks, they slip up and they talk with someone within the organization, and then now they have an opinion of you. And maybe
right,
you were just frustrated that week.
right.
Or maybe, again, you weren't able to explain fully all of that you were witnessing or all that you were experiencing. So, again, their opinion may be a bit jaded because it's missing some information.
Right.
And, um, and that opinion may turn negative, right?
Right.
And then, people talk and then it spreads you know, and then you have the noise. I call it the noise, right? And the whispers, oh, there's noise about her, like that's
Yeah.
how they say it, right? Without saying it. Um, so yeah, I think that definitely, you really, really have to be mindful. I know we were talking too about Again, like with the small talk. So again, kind of a step further from the small talk, I see a lot of folks limit themselves. So like even this young lady, because I would chat like if I was coaching her, like doing career coaching, which I do not do. So please stop trying to send people to me that are out of jobs. Like I don't do that. I work with companies. I work on the HR side with companies. I don't help people find jobs. But like let's say, like if I were career coaching this lady, like I would ask her, like, do you go to the extracurricular activities? Like, do you participate in the volunteer events and the philanthropy? Do you go to, again, like, a lot of companies will have like these games, like to reward, like they'll get tickets at the local baseball game or
Right.
something like that, or basketball game, and employees can go, or an after work event or like a retirement party. Do you show up? And you probably will find like she probably doesn't engage in that stuff.
Mm, no.
And so that's where, again, because it's in those settings, again, because drinks are flowing usually. Again, if you're working for a company that's thriving, then usually they have an open bar and they got the food rolling,
Yeah.
right? So your food and your drink, so then people are feeling good, and they're letting down their guard.
Yep.
That whole title thing is out the window, and then you really get to know them for who they are and what they really are interested in, and you know um and you learn some really really crazy unique things about
Yeah.
people
That's
that
true.
help shape and like help you understand maybe why they are, like,
Yeah.
again, like some of your leaders, and like I understand it more now than I did before. Like I remember working with one of the leaders in a very, very prominent, profitable oil company. And like I remember he shared with me, and it's funny because now like I know other people now that do this, like that are younger entrepreneurs and stuff. And it's gonna sound crazy to like the average person, right? But I completely get it because it links to drive and the ability to take risk.
Yeah.
But he was sharing with me how, like we're in Michigan, and I think he was working out of Ohio, but he was here like for me to work with him. So I don't know if it was for an assignment or whatever. But anyway, I remember him sharing with me how like once a year or once every 2 years, he does this trip, like complete strangers. Like he found this company where they take him and they fly him to the middle of like the forest or whatever in Canada, and he jumps out of the plane with his gun and stuff, and then he hunts, and then he's got to find his way back.
Oh wow.
It
So
sounds
he's on
crazy.
some survivor stuff. Huh?
Yes, it sounds crazy as heck. But then when you start looking at again the level at which he was at within that company, like he easily probably was doing minimum seven figures, like low seven figures, right?
Hmm.
For that corporate job. And so you think about the guts that it takes, the ability to withstand risk,
Right.
and to be able to think strategically, think on your feet last minute, and act. Like those same skills and characteristics are the same skills and characteristics that it actually takes for him to be able to
To do that.
have the role that he has and to be
Yeah.
successful at it. So you'll find, like I said, like entrepreneurs, especially because your level of risk you're willing to take, it makes you more daring, right?
Yeah. More
Because
adventurous.
yeah, you take the risk and then you succeeded. So then you're like, okay, I can
You
do
need
this,
something to
right?
take it up a notch, take it up because you're continuing to challenge yourself. Self.
Yeah.
That's the growth piece,
Yep.
right?
And people think you're crazy. I can't believe you're doing that. And
Yeah.
but people who understand, understand.
Hmm.
And so, so I share that to say it it helped me understand him a lot more.
Hmm.
It actually gave me more respect for him,
Right.
kind of at a different level because I just looked at him, differently. I thought like that's crazy, but I got it. Like
Yeah.
I totally got it, right? Um, and so when you do get to know someone on a little bit of a deeper level, again, like a lot of times it gives you empathy for them.
Yeah.
Especially again, because we're talking about the corporate work world. Because as a leader, oftentimes like your employees, or the company, depending on what role you're in, they don't understand or even respect how hard it is to make some of the decisions you have to make, like the tough decisions. And people, they might think you're heartless. Like I'm sure over the years, even today, there's people that may think like, oh, that is heartless or whatever. But again, there's like, again, when it's go time, like, and there's decisions that have to be made,
Yeah.
like that's what comes with the
That's right.
responsibility. That's what
That's
comes
right.
with the role, you know. And so, so I think it is nice for people to be able to get to know you a little bit, to just be able to see that like you are still a human person.
Right.
You are still, a human being.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
important. I think it's important. And I think concentrate the small talk around the things that everybody desires. Community,
Mm,
some sort of sense of community. Um, so if you are, you have you're a philanthropist, you do a lot of
yeah.
things like that, discuss that work over. I mean, that's usually something that's,
Mm-hmm.
non-controversial, depending upon the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but community, a sense of community, um, family, things, that all of us as humans, desire: connection, community, family, things like that. And
Yeah.
it's not always about, kids, because I know even for some people that can be triggersome. If you don't have kids, you don't want to hear about that. So I understand that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why I just said, community, because whether you have children or not, you may still have a community of friends that you gather with weekly
Mm-hmm.
and do things, or if you have a book club, that you're a part of, um, just things like that. I mean, I think that those are
So let
interesting.
me ask you. So what? Because I know this. So that with this person, what do you think her response has been? Because I know she probably was getting the question like, okay, so every Monday when they're asking, let's just say, call her Sally Sue. Hey, Sally Sue, how was your weekend? What'd you end up doing? Like, what was been her response?
Well, the way that she was explaining it, she hadn't been doing any of that. Like all she talked about was work.
I mean, so she wouldn't even respond like when they'd
She
ask.
wasn't, I guess she didn't seem to be making much small talk at all. And
Yeah.
that was the problem.
And that's again because I've heard people on social media talking about just go to work,
Yep.
focus on your work. But that's again, and these are the clues that that let you know where people are in life, what level, what tax bracket, and things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you're gonna do that's ever gonna change their mind. So you just let them have that because
Yeah.
that's where they are. They're gonna be stuck there. And just know if you are one of those people. Again, this is where the HR whisper has to give some hard look, some straight talk. As Franklin Covey, puts it, you're going to limit yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to limit yourself. And again, and this is with everything, like even in entrepreneurship. That's why you see, like, especially like, because I know y'all see them, because y'all be trying to emulate them on, social media, especially like the guys, like they even have like with cars, because my thing is the Lambos and stuff. So, like, they have different car clubs and things. And even that is how people connect and network.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you're in those circles, like people want to know, oh, so what do you do? Right? Because again, like usually in that environment, people are doing some like out of this world type of stuff, right? Like, because they've taken those risks.
Right.
And like, you're like, oh my God, and they expose you to so much. But then also, people do want to know, like, what's at the heart of it. Like, are you married? Do you have a family, or a significant other or kids? So again, so that still comes up even in those environments as well. People want to know, like, what do you do? Sometimes people ask, what do you do in your downtime? What do you do to unwind, or what do you do to relax? You know, what do you do
Yeah.
when you're stressed? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I've told my son, I see a lot of people that struggle with this small talk for a few reasons. And I tell him all the time that, people are interested when you're interesting, right? And so
Hmm.
um, a lot of people just aren't interesting, right? And the small talk is so much more than corporate, it's so much more than business. If you're trying to date, you need to be able to make small talk, right? If you're trying to network, you need to be able to make small talk. So this is not just even to a business or corporate or any of that perspective. I mean, you need to have this skill. And I was looking at an article that said like 40% of Gen Zers do not know how to communicate. And that
Oh,
this is,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that this is a major problem. So, I talk to my son about this a lot, but it's finding things again to me that are interesting. And I think the more that hobbies you do have and the things that you do that you can talk to people about. I read a lot of books. So for me, that's something that I talk about a lot and people really find interesting and they want you to break down you know, a brief
Yeah.
synopsis of the book and
Oh,
all that.
yeah. People get, yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of small talk for me. I'm, on a health journey and you find all these, all these
Mhm.
supplements and all the good stuff. And, we talk about that. Some
Oh,
people find all of that interesting.
yeah.
Um, just different topics.
Mhm.
Um, but I pride myself to me at this point on being at a place where I feel like I can have small talk with anyone. I can find something to chat with
Relate and to
anyone.
relate. That's
Mhm.
going to be your success, regardless of where you are
Yep.
on the totem pole, tax bracket.
Yep.
You need to be able to, like, again, the most successful people are able to relate to everyone.
Yep.
Like I say I'm good in any hood. Look, because I would go to California and you can see me one of the days I'm gonna be in Beverly Hills, right? And one of the days you might see me on Crenshaw Avenue.
At Roscoe's.
And I feel no, but seriously, like legit, like I'm not even trying to joke or make it up. Nah, again, I know how to dress and stuff. And again, this is an environment, so you gotta know
Right.
how to flex, right? How to for real, like, because I would go like Beverly Hills and you know so they would be pulling me in the stores, right? Because our friend, our childhood, her, who I used to be with, she would be looking crazy because again, like I'm gonna talk with them, right? Like, but they would pull us in the store, like literally come get me. Like, come here, I want to show you something. One time, like, and again, this was years ago, they were showing me this phone that like the screen was made of diamonds, crushed
Wow.
diamonds. And I'm just like, hey, like, okay, I'm acting like I'm so into it. And she was like, you gonna buy this? Like, hell no, I'm not gonna buy it. But but you just again like you're connecting with people, right? And again, even again, like I see some people too that make the mistake. They get a little something or they get a little bit of a title, like now you're manager. You're not CEO, you're manager. But they start acting crazy, like on people. Especially like I pay attention to how folks interact like with the service staff. Like that has
Yeah.
been my greatest asset, like from a networking standpoint, navigating like the business world, even just like life in general, like that's been the plug, right? Like if I go to an event, like that's who I'm seeking out. That's who I need to connect with because like that server knows everybody in the room because oftentimes they work all the events. So I can be like, and I have, or they see me like, girl, oh, you're here at this, okay, and I'll ask, I'll be like, who was that lady? Like, because you'll see everybody kind of bowing down to
Yeah,
them.
yeah, getting around it.
And
Yeah,
we're trying to like, have to meet her, but I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, who is
right,
that? Oh, that's Judge so and so's wife. That's such a. And they will give you the game, but you'll have some people that really have not arrived yet, but think they have, and they are so mean to people,
they are.
you know. And you just again, like, you rather in the workplace, again, you get more flies with honey, you
Right.
know, that old saying, you just do. And people will go above and beyond. Like again, that's anywhere. That's why I say like any hood, like any country, like literally, like I had to navigate in a country I didn't speak the language.
Right.
I missed my flight and didn't know where my bags was.
Oh,
And do you
wow.
know I assembled a team? Because that's again like who you are is who you are, regardless of where you are. If you're a leader wherever.
That's right.
But again, because I'm not shitty to people, I'm a nice person, and people want to help. Right when you are that way,
Yep.
I was able to assemble a team and speaking a whole different language and had them folks working to track down my luggage. They got me on a whole nother flight with
Wow.
no additional pay to get me
Wow.
to my destination and did not speak the language.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
had Google Translator. Okay. And it was frustrating. Don't get me wrong. They had me up in the Delta offices. I don't work for Delta, never
Right.
have. In a whole nother country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Helping. Like, and again, because somebody they took me like, oh, she do, whatever they said, like basically like we need to help her. We need to. And honey, we got it together. Found my luggage, had me on another flight, made sure I got on that flight, got me to my destination. But again, like sometimes people they haven't honed in on those skills of being able to, be persuasive, just being likable, you know.
Yeah. And I think this is a good place to stop and just kind of give a public service announcement on this for definitely people that look like you and me. I mean, we see this as a major issue just with sometimes our attitude. And
Mhm.
that's something that we have got to do better
Yeah.
about because it's sad because even myself a lot of times I'll be out and I'm just not as quick to be as friendly to someone that is exactly like me because I'm not sure if they'll give me attitude or not. And I think that's sad
Oh, now why is that, Jasmine?
because I mean
But it can be the opposite too. But sometimes you gotta exemplify that aura too, right?
yeah, I mean, I will speak and but I've noticed with
You know,
myself,
you
I'll
know.
speak and do stuff, but I'm not willing to just I it's a difference.
Yeah.
And I've started to pay attention to that and I was like, I
Well,
need to
sometimes I give a head nod, right?
mhm.
Because I need to know if they black like this or they black like that. And
Oh,
so, because that can make a difference too.
oh
Because people,
no.
okay. And so, but I'm telling you, like, why are you laughing?
So
Like,
crazy.
that can make a difference. Like, because
It can.
they
It
will like
can.
straight curve you. They feel like, I don't,
Yeah, and that's yeah, that's
and I
true.
just, and now, like, I just laughed at all. That's funny to me because you're missing
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah. And I don't
You,
let it change who I am because the
yeah.
point is you can't let it change the light that you have and who you are and what you do. And I don't, but I've noticed as you're growing and you're on your own personal development journey, you're watching yourself, I've
Hmm.
noticed that I'm not as quick to strike up conversation.
Yeah.
Um I've noticed that about my and I said, well, why? Well, because sometimes I get attitude, you
Yeah.
know.
And
And
sometimes,
so,
I mean, yeah, or sometimes just do it like a warm gauge. Like I said, I'll do that little head nod. Like even again, like, but I know it's part, but some of it is not me, right? It's God, the God who's in me. It's the Holy Spirit. Believe it or not, He's in me. But because like when I was in Chicago a few weeks ago for that business event, right? So I'm in this building, and again, like he always sends somebody to help me
Mhm.
because what like they had, you had to go through all this security, and they gave you this little ticket thing of where you were supposed to be or the floor or whatever. And you had to get on one floor, then go over to some other elevators to get up to
Oh
another
yeah, yeah,
floor. And I think I looked confused
yeah.
and lost. So this guy, and he was, like Mexican or whatever, he came to my rescue, you know. Like, where are you going? And we struck up a because he was so cool. I think it was probably toward the end of his day, end of his shift. And I was like, hey, I'm here for such and such event. And, he was like, I showed him my thing. He's like, oh, no, they're up here. Because they had actually changed. And that's what it was. They had changed the venue. But
Oh no.
apparently it
Okay.
didn't get to the people who were checking folks in, like, 40 floors below, like the security people. And he went up the elevator with me and got me right there.
Hmm.
Right. Same night, this lady, different demographic. She came back like in the event. We were talking and then she left. She's like, okay, I'm gonna head out. And then she left out and I saw her coming back in and she came over to me and she was like frustrated. She was like, I can't find the bathroom and she doesn't speak English. And I was like, oh, okay. I walked out there. Hola, here's baño.
Yeah,
Baño.
donde baños?
And she took me like through the look where the employees' interest and took me over. So again, like sometimes it is your attitude because if you're shitty, like who wants to help you? Because like the
Yeah.
lady, she actually was, I think, on a break because she was eating, so she must have been like on a break having like her lunch, because it was like at night. But again, because I came respectful and because like I had the heads up like from the other lady that like, oh, okay, she may not speak
Speak
English.
English.
Who
Mhm.
knows, she might have, but sometimes some people like because they see how nasty you are, they might act like they don't speak English. So
Mhm.
like I went out and I had to use my couple little words of Spanish that I do know and and get what I needed taken
Yeah.
care of. So sometimes it can be aura, and especially, and I want to remind those folks again that think that they have made it or have had some success. Sometimes you don't realize. No, this is a good thing, Jasmine. Sometimes you don't realize you are the physical manifestation of someone's dreams.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize that. And that has happened to me on several occasions, where I've been going to an airport and somebody might be checking me out. Where are you going? Where are you going? And I tell them, like who you work for, especially now, like this happened a few years ago. It's like, well, I work for myself. I own my own business. And, and it really inspires an
Yeah.
individual, right? And again, and it's just all of who you are.
Yeah.
So sometimes check that too, because, and I will tell you, now I'm going to give too much, but you'll understand this because you know where we grew up and you know who I grew up being raised by. Okay, so you will understand. This just explains who I am. I'm multidimensional, but I understand who I am, right?
Right.
So I was in Miami and I was, my boyfriend has the cars or whatever. So we're on the highway, like he's before ahead of me, I'm behind him in a Ferrari. Because that was the time I was like, you know what, I need to drive a Ferrari because I never forgot when in my 20s, this guy told me, he said, Clanetta, a lot of people will tell you money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a bright red Ferrari and you can drive right up close next to it. And so I was like, I need to drive a I'm telling you, that has stuck with me forever. Because again, that man, like we were celebrating, that's when I was in the MLM world. And it was a
Mhm.
Saturday. He was projected to hit his first million that Tuesday. So we were celebrating early. And I remember him telling me that because he called me. I was like, Clonetta. He was like, I know a lot of people will tell you money can't buy you happiness, but it'll buy you a bright red Ferrari and you can drive right up close next to it. And that has stuck with me all these years, right? And so I was like, I need to drive a red Ferrari. He had a red Ferrari. So I'm in the red Ferrari. He's in front of me. And one of those wasn't even like a supercar. It was like one of the GM cars that a lot of the guys have that has the, like one of the, or not GM, but Dodge. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about?
Charger.
Or something like that. Yeah. And then my boy was behind me in the Lambo. So we're on the highway and we're just going, right? I-95. And again, because of where I grew up, I'm from Benton Harbor, Michigan, and I was born and raised by Clinton Edmund Frazier. Although I'm driving, I could feel a car coming up on me on the side. It just, when my hand went down, like, and then I realized, I was like, oh, shoot, because I'm in Florida. I'm like, I don't have my piece on me. I'm like, shoot. But I could feel this car coming up. And then, you know me, like, I'm like, well, I'm a G, so I'm just like, it's whatever it's going to be. And I look over and it's this, oh, shit, I'm about to cry. And it's this younger black boy and he's in the back seat of this Tesla, his window down, and he's screaming. And at first, like, I couldn't tell what he was screaming about. And he was like, yes, my black queen, you get it, girl. It was a drop top Ferrari too. And that touched me so, because that's why I say, like, sometimes you don't realize you can be the physical manifestation of what somebody's been praying for.
That's so true.
On their vision board, right? And sometimes they just need to see that representation of themselves.
Yeah.
And they see that sometimes in you.
Yeah.
Imagine if you have such a like an attitude that, like, you're so up here, you can't be touched or talked to. Imagine what that does for somebody, how that can crush them or crush their dream. So I say that to share, like, I've learned over the years too, because I'm an introvert. And it's been more out of shyness, but I did this activity I'll share with folks again, especially if you're somebody that wants to be successful or you already are successful and you want to move up. Again, as you move through different levels in your life, what got you where you are is not what's going to keep you and not what's going to take you further.
Absolutely.
And so you do have to grow.
Yeah.
And so there's this exercise a few years back that I was challenged to do. And I use it with some of my clients even, but it's called a grow and growth exercise. And basically, see, I'm sitting here giving y'all free coaching. Yeah. But basically what you do is you identify 5 individuals in your life that have different spaces in your life that you can trust to tell you the truth. And you have to give them permission to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you pick someone maybe that's in your family. Again, if you're someone in the business world, pick somebody that's in business with you. Pick a friend. Maybe pick a spouse or significant other. And you go to them and you ask them to, let them know, look, I'm looking to do some self-development for myself and recognize blind spots that I may not see. And ask them to identify 5 glow moments, which are moments in which they've been around you or they've observed you at your very best. And then ask them to identify 5 grow moments. Moments at which they've witnessed or they've been around you where maybe you haven't been your best.
Yeah.
And give them the permission to be completely and blatantly transparent with you. And let them know, and then you have to resolve within yourself, whatever they share with you, you're not going to hold it against them.
Right.
You have to share this information. Now, I already knew especially from one person, one of the things that was going to come back. Like, I already knew, right? But for a grow moment. But I did appreciate it. It helped me look introspectively and realize again, I assert because they said you can come off very standoffish.
Yeah.
And the reality is right, wrong, or indifferent, however you want to receive it, does that align with somebody that is uber successful in life? That's an entrepreneur? How is that going to work for you if you're
Yeah.
stand up? That's how you come off, right?
Yeah. No.
So that's somewhere an area to work on.
Right.
And I recognize, okay, sometimes I can because I recognize that again, and it shifted something in me. So now I have a
Yeah.
different experience, right? Because I think this was before like the incident with the gentleman, the young man rolling up on me and stuff like that. And because I told you I'm Beverly Hills and Crenshaw, I can conduct myself, accordingly. But I recognize, like, yeah, I probably do because I am an introvert and I'm shy
Yeah.
naturally. And so, and honestly, like if I am at an airport or something, like sometimes I don't want people to approach me, you know, like because sometimes I just want to be left alone with my own thoughts.
Right.
But I recognize it in myself, and I started to be a little bit more intentional about being more open.
Yeah.
And it's all in energy. It's all in energy. It's a smile,
That's what it takes.
a
Yeah.
light.
Just being intentional about it.
Yeah, it's a lightness that you carry about
Hmm.
yourself that will make people want to approach you, and that's even and that translates even into the
It
workplace,
does. Yeah,
you
it
know.
does.
And and again, just kind of think about that, and if you are brave, try to do that exercise. Because again, you might hear some things or have some things shared with you that aren't as glamorous, but it's only going
Right.
to better you. It's only going to increase you if you take it seriously and if you look at it from this perspective of a growth opportunity
Right.
and really build some strategies and some things around and coaching around being able to get better. So as I say all that again is to help the people out there listening, but also with that individual that got that feedback of her getting passed over on that job. Do you think that again, because there's a couple ways someone can take it, they can complain and say, "Oh, that's wrong, that's not right," or they can take that feedback and say, "You know what, that's not going to be me next year. I want to engage." And again, and one of the things, if I were coaching her directly, I would tell her to lean into that, boss. And this is a great opportunity because people love to be smooth too, right? And begin to ask her, like, let her know, "Hey, you know what? I've heard what you said the other day about me not being as open, and it really has piqued my interest and sparked something in me that wants to improve on that and change and grow. Will you partner with me on that journey?" And they're gonna be like, "What?" See, I'm giving y'all some game here, man. They're gonna be like, because they're gonna feel warm and fuzzy. Oh my god, like she wants me to like mentor her. I'm like, okay, so you in there like swimwear. Okay. And but you have to actually take the feed, like take it seriously
Yeah.
and give them the permission to be honest with you,
Right.
transparent, like where they see, like, again, may
The
sometimes,
holes and right, the things you need to
yeah.
develop.
And sometimes in work environments, you give them the permission, like if you guys are in meetings together a lot, it can even be a peer, and ask them, if they will maybe jot down some observances, like in some of the meetings you're in, and maybe you guys meet once a week or once every 2 weeks, and they share again those grow and glow moments with you that they've observed in life in real time, and work with you to improve them. And again, like with your boss, somebody you're reporting to, oh, that's going to go so much deeper and like over so well. Like, because when they see you grow, like they're going to be bragging. Because I already shared with you guys what goes on behind those closed doors and those
Right.
calibration meetings when we're having the conversations around compensation, next up, and performance.
Right.
So then they're going to be talking to you because they feel like they have ownership in it now.
Yeah.
I helped her grow. She's done a whole 180. like from last year? Do you see like she's so like out there now and just, everyone loves her. Because I've been mentoring her, I've been working with her, because people like to inflate their own ego as
That's
well.
right.
And so again, while it may seem like a negative for her today, again, but it's all in how she decides to run with it.
Well, I think a lot of the feedback in the group, she just didn't realize, that, how important the small talk was and
Hmm.
how she had really missed out, you know. Um, and they even gave her some books to look at and think about. And yeah,
Hmm.
but I think that this is a topic that many people are, kind of confused about and struggle with small talk.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It's something there. I wonder, are there any books out there around it? Or
Yep.
maybe even more podcasts like this one that, you know, can
Yeah,
enlighten.
there are quite a bit of books around it. Like The Art of Conversation and things
Mhm.
like that. And just yeah, the different things with that. But yeah, I like I tell my son, it's really, it's becoming more interesting because I mean, the more you learn and read and do different things, the easier it is to get on one accord with people,
Yes.
So I mean,
And
that's been my
experience, right? And experience life experiences. That's why I encourage travel.
yeah,
I encourage cultural competence, diversity, because you never know.
that's true.
You just never know,
That's
right?
true.
You're talking to somebody, and you might mention a country, and you find out, oh my goodness, I grew up there, and we moved when I was like 7. I used to live. And then it's weird. It's like they have a. It's like they ought to have this automatic connection with you.
Hmm.
You know? So yeah.
So
So no, I
true.
think that's so important. It's so
Yep.
so important. And again, and it crosses cultural lines.
Hmm.
Find things on those topics that can cross cultural lines, because even again, and those are the things that are going to help you develop the skill set to be able to disagree without being disagreeable,
Hmm.
you know, and really navigate through life.
So true.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so as we close out, do you have anything going on?
Not right now. Not right now.
All
No,
right.
no webinars coming up as of yet.
Okay. We have again still working away at the HR Whisperer and other companies, and the Lamborghini C channel. We're adding new content, so go over there, like, subscribe, and share on that channel. I have lots and lots of content I have yet to get out. Some I still have to edit. Just with some of the adventures, and I'm starting to do some more vlogging.
Okay.
I even have my I've had it for like the last year, but I even have my like real vlogging,
Oh
camera.
wow.
I'm official, honey. But just taking folks behind the scenes of a real life look at this entrepreneurial journey, right? And some of the things we talked about tonight, like getting out in front of people, engaging, having the small talk,
Right.
stepping outside of that shyness or that introvertedness, and really making things happen, because that really is where the magic happens. It
It
really
is.
in the money. So
So true.
definitely. Well, thank you guys for joining us on HR
Yes.
Blunders, and we will
Yay.
be back in 2 weeks.
Yep. 2 weeks.
All right.
Bye guys.
Bye.